what is the first episode of the new decade. And I really hope that you had a great time over the festive period and didn't get too eco-anxious over watching all those Christmas excesses of people that are still not quite there with the message of overconsumption. I also just want to thank you as the listeners for sticking with me into the new decade, and also to new listeners, welcome. I've got some really exciting guests that are coming up in future episodes, and I'm really starting to focus how I can really deliver more value to you as a listener. So please do watch this space. I also want to thank anyone who's left a review. Particularly thank you to Hyde-No-Fora, who said that the podcast is inspiring and informative and full of useful tips. He said it's one of his favourite podcasts. Claire interviews a wide variety of interesting guests from all walks of life, and that is something that's important to me, that it's not just people who have lots of funding, who have got lots of backing. I really have been inspired by everyday people and started to realise that people who are change makers and people who have really made a difference are just normal people. And perhaps the only thing that's different with them is that they've got a grasp of their mindset and they've really just decided to take action, and rather than allow overwhelm or fear to take over, they've turned all of that passion and energy into positive momentum. And that's really what my mission is. I follow another coach, and she was saying about setting goals for 2020. Part of that, she sets herself a mantra of a particular word that is her word for the year that kind of keeps her going. I've taken that on board, and I've actually got 3 words. So my words are believe, create, and achieve. So believe, really want to get behind the fact that you can make a difference. And if you believe you can make a difference, if you believe you can have a positive impact, then the world is your oyster. You can really do anything. The most important thing is to really have that belief, and then where your attention goes, your energy flows. Create, I really want to create ways of helping people to overcome any kind of eco-anxiety or inertia and overwhelm, and to take action. And that might be environmental goals, sustainability goals, or often there are our own personal fears that are holding us back that really need to be tackled before you can take those actions. What did I say? Believe, create, achieve. So yeah, achieve. For me, I really just want to achieve reaching as many people as possible with my message this year. So I'm going to give you a few kind of tips on how to deal with eco-anxiety. And by the way, I've set up an eco-anxiety support group on Facebook, so you can head over to Facebook and join that group in order to help you turn that eco-anxiety and overwhelm into positive action. But what is eco-anxiety? I mean, eco-anxiety is a completely normal reaction to the environmental issues that we're facing right now, and it's not a specific mental health problem, but it could exacerbate underlying issues that you have. So the first thing really is to just accept that it is a normal reaction, and also that, you know, our brains are hardwired to have this internal warning system. So if you are feeling anxious or concerned about something, it's probably because there is something to be concerned about. So the first thing really to do is to figure out what that is and how you can then turn that into action. So I've got ACTS. So let's see, I've put together this acronym. So A is acknowledge and accept. Acknowledge that you are feeling concerned and own that. And accept that you can't influence everyone. You really need to look at yourself and what you can do for yourself and what's within your own power. So acknowledge that you are concerned, really own that and say, yes, I have eco-anxiety, I am concerned. And I accept that I'm not a superhuman, I can't help everyone, I can't change everyone's opinion. So you can just look at what you can do for yourself and your own sphere of influence. So then create an action plan of achievable goals. And over the coming weeks and months in my eco-anxiety support group, I will be explaining how you can do that. And I'll also be having some putting together some webinars and workshops as well, in order to really there's no point in me having all of these tools that I've learned on how to deal with these things. I really want to get that information out to as many people as possible, so that we can all start doing things and having a bigger impact. And T is think. So consider the planet when you are deciding what to eat, what to buy, how and where to travel. And if you want any kind of guidance or tips and advice, if you haven't yet listened to it, then the Ocean's 8 podcast episode, which is the podcast episode before this one, has tons of useful eco resolution tips for 2020. So head over and listen to that. So 4 is S, and that's a support network. Build a support network around you. You're not alone. There are so many people out there who are concerned about the environment, about the issues that we're facing. Together we can create a massive wave of change. And also that's another reason why I set up the support group on Facebook. So you can head over to that and find your tribe. The more people that join the group, the more impact we can have. So apologies for the really long intro for today's episode. It is a long episode as well, but it's really worth it. And another sort of bit of advice that can really help with the anxiety is to get outside, reconnect with nature, get into green spaces, get into blue spaces, reconnect with the environment. There are so many scientific studies that have proven how connecting with nature is so good for our well-being. And by stepping outside of the crazy busyness of our human-created world and reconnecting with nature, it just creates space in your brain, in your mindset, for that overwhelm to dissipate and for the things that are really important to you to come to the fore. So with that in mind, my podcast guest on this episode has done exactly that. He's got outside, and we talk about mental health, and we talk about how walking and hiking and getting out into nature really helps him. And this is Wayne Dixon, who is currently walking around the whole of the coast of the UK with his awesome dog, Koda. Yeah, so I'm sat here in Saltdean on a lovely sunny day, and I'm here with Wayne and Koda, who's been chasing flies around the living room. And I really just think that it's best if you introduce yourself, Wayne. And I mean, you're an absolute inspiration to many people walking all around the coast of Britain. So let us know who you are and where you're from and why you're doing this.
Right, okay. My name's Wayne Dixon and I'm 47 and I'm from Blackburn, Lancashire, and I'm litter picking the whole coast of Britain. I started on the 1st of February 2016 from Fleetwood, Lancashire. And the first year I walked up to Glencoe in Scotland, and that took me to the end of December. Went home for 3 weeks and decided not to carry on through the winter because of up in Scotland. Came down for 3 weeks, went back out January 2017, walked to the end of December and got down to the Lizard. Then the third year I set off from the Lizard and I got to Southampton, and basically the third year I hit a wall. I had a groin injury that put me off for 6 months and hit a wall physically and mentally, and then I've come back out in May this year from Southampton and currently here in Brighton, and yeah.
So you're picking up every piece of litter that you walk past along the way?
I am indeed, yeah. I'm picking up every single piece of litter that I physically walk past. Basically, it stems from a dream of travelling and wanting to walk the coast of Britain. when I was 9 years old, my mum and dad had lots of... They were quite like hippies in a way, so our household was full of very interesting people when I was younger. And one of them people was a guy called Bob Taylor. And he was a traveller, he was from Blackburn, he was one of my dad's friends, and he was a traveller, and, as in travelling away in foreign places and stuff. And he'd come back at least once a year. And when he'd come back, he'd always come back windswept, he looked different, he'd always have a beautiful girl on his arm from somewhere across the world, had lots of stories, and he'd always bring me back a fossil or a stone. And I was 9 years old, and I remember my mum saying to me, right Bob, when we're in 16, I'm going to pack him a rucksack, and I want you to take him travelling. That never happened, but from that day, all I wanted to do, I couldn't wait till I was 16 and start travelling. And then from that day, I started to get interested with geography, places all around the world. My mum and dad divorced when about 12 or 13. And I lived with my mum for the rest of the time. But my dad stayed in touch. And my dad, in his 30s, became... an author of historical walking guides. So every time I would visit my dad, we would go out walking in the countryside, and sometimes it'd be last thing you want to do at 13, because you're walking around for 14, 15 miles, it's wet through, you're in some ruin of a church, your dad's really excited and you're sat there, oh God, what's this? Yeah. And that was my childhood really, visiting my dad. When I was about 15, 16, my dad started going to Crete. And bear in mind, at the time, I was a working class lad. I'm from a peer group where none of my friends went to university. We didn't have the opportunity to go to university. And a lot of my friends and I did go down the wrong path when I was about 16. All my peer group got into the rave scene, and heavy drugs decimated my peer group when I was younger. But my dad introduced me to travelling. He started going away about 3 or 4 months a year to Crete. And when about 14, 15, he took me away for about 5 or 6 weeks, walking over a mountain. And what I found is that at that point I was in a lot of trouble back home. And he took me away for 6 weeks. We walked over a mountain. And when I came back home, I saw that I'd worked out my problems in a way. I was able to take myself away from that situation, get myself a bit fitter, healthier, and come back with a different point of view, which has always helped me. And from then on, got the travelling bug, and throughout my life, I've always been interested in people who have done big walks through either survival, be it escaping from a gulag or a prisoner of war camp or plane crash. I've always been fascinated with nomadic people, and always been fascinated in what the human being can do when in a survival situation, So throughout my life, with that introduction from my dad and from that guy Bob, I got the lust for travelling really, at a young age. And I found that over the years that's helped me, because I left home when I was 17, I joined the army for 3 years, then I travelled for 6 years, and then I became a support worker. So throughout my life I've used travelling, and I got into backpacking. That's been my love throughout my life. And like I said, I was running away from a lot of trouble back home throughout my life. And it's backpacking that saved my life. And with backpacking, I've been able, you key into the landscape, you take yourself away from a lot of problems. And like I said, it's I should have been dead a few times over, back home. And I think that's thing that's kept me alive throughout my life. And like I said, I had lots of problems back home. I was running away from unemployment, from drug addiction, from gang fights, all them social issues. And then, like I said, I moved away from home, and them social issues have really bothered me throughout my life, to the point where when I was 26 I became a support worker for young people, because I could identify with their needs. I'd lived that life, and I became a support worker for years. So running throughout my life has been this running away from social problems that have affected me and my friends. And the things that have helped me throughout them social problems are going backpacking, going away, travelling. But throughout my life, I've always gone back home. I've always stayed in contact with my friends back home. And what I've found over years, when I've gone back home, all them problems that I'm running away from them are still there, and hundredfold. And I think I can see them more because I'm tapping here, right? Because
you got some perspective, really.
Yeah, if you go away, you come back. Like I said, I don't think you can. Sometimes people can't see what's right in front of their nose.
Yeah.
So I've had this perspective, and it's really upset me and annoyed me over the years, because, like I said, them problems are still there, 100-fold. All them kids that I educate back home, 50% will. 30 to 50% of them will still, follow that line, and it's something that's really affected me throughout my life. Anyway, about 12 years ago, I was a young offender reparation supervisor, and I was mentoring a young offender, and we're doing a bicycle project where we're taking this lad out, fixing a bike up, taking this lad out, and I broke my neck 2006. I was off work for about a year, and the only thing I could think about when I was in hospital was, first, could I walk? And the second thing was, what came to me was, am I still able to do what I love doing, which was the hill walking, the backpacking. And for years, for about 20 years, me and my dad, at least once a year, would do a backpacking holiday. And we used to go to North Greece, Crete or Turkey, and he'd research or walk for about 2 or 3 weeks, be it gorge, mountain or coastal walk. And obviously every year I look forward to doing that. So when I broke my neck, like you said, when you have an accident like that, you start to look at your life. Yeah, you realise you're not 16 anymore. You start to value life a bit more. And like you said, when I was in hospital, the only thing I could think about was, am I able to do what I love doing? And it came to me that I said, and the only thing I wanted to continue was the hill walking. And from that period, obviously, that's when I came up with the idea. And I still knew, even though I've been in the army for 3 years and I travelled from 20 to 26, I still felt that I had an adventure in me, and I was still in a position to do it because I didn't have any debts, any mortgage, any children. So I still felt I had an adventure in me. That's around that time, I think that's when the idea came, I'd love to walk the coast of Britain. And at the time, again, I thought I could never do it in one go because of money, work and stuff like that. But throughout my life, I've got a pattern where, everything's going right. You've got the job, you've got the flat, you've got the girlfriend, you've got the money. And then next thing you know, you've lost a lot. You're on your mate's sofa with 2 Tesco bags with your worldly belongings, and you're on your backside again. And I've been in that situation quite a lot. I've never been actually homeless on the streets, but I've been homeless because I've got lots of friends, you see. So I've been able, every time I've lost things, be it my job, be it split from a girlfriend, whatever, you find yourself back on that sofa knocking on your mate's door. So after I broke my neck, I thought to myself, the next time I fall on my backside again, I'll just walk the coast of Britain. And at the time, it would have been not for charity. I'd have just walked the coast of Britain, Anyway, when I told my dad I wanted to walk the coast of Britain, and obviously couldn't do it in big one go. My dad came to me and said, right, let's stop going abroad and I'll help you with your dream. And what we'll do, we'll, instead of going abroad every year, we'll do segments of the coast of Britain. And I thought, brilliant, because all of a sudden I've got this dream, like this big adventure dream, and now the dream of walking coast of Britain, it could actually come true. Fair enough, not in one go, but if you did it a bit every year, in 20 years' time I can sit back and say I've walked the coast of Britain. So I was happy with that, and we started on the South West Coast Path, and we did about 5 sections of it over a 3 or 4 year period. And then all of a sudden in 2012, in 2010, I came out of London and I went to live on a farm, and I was living on a farm for 18 months. I was flushing London out of my system. I was flushing my job as a support worker out of my system.
How are you doing that?
I got an opportunity. My girlfriend at the time, I wanted a year out. I'd had about 5 burnouts with my job. I was fed up of London, and I needed a year out. And in my head, I needed a place for a year where I could just do either gardening, digging holes, hod carrying, just something to flush my system, because what I found over years, I threw myself into, again, I'm running away from addiction as well. I was on and off heroine user for about 20 to 26 every time I went back home and stuff. So I'm running away from that past life, if you will. And at 26, I threw myself into support work to the point where I became addicted to it. You're getting paid 35 hours a week. Yeah, I'm working 70 hours a week. I didn't have a life. And I've had a few burnouts in the past where you start making mistakes, and I've been off work for 6 or 7 months. You're in bed for 3 months, you can't get out. And what I found when I threw myself into my work, I found that when I had a burnout and you're in bed for 6 or 8 weeks, when you're coming out of that, I found that being addicted to my job, I like music, I like writing, I like walking. I found for about 10 years I'd done none of the things that I loved doing. I threw everything into my work, which resulted in me, making mistakes, burning out. And then after me, when I broke my neck, I started to do more, get the balance right. Switch, just do me 35 hours. At work, do more writing, get into the things that I love doing, do more hill walking. And what I found while I was still in London is, in the future I want to create a workshop, and I want to make things from either driftwood or fallen branches, and I want a workshop in the middle of nowhere. Ideally it'd be in a forest where there's a good driftwood catch area, or a good catch area what's bringing up sea litter and stuff, and make stuff from the stuff I find. And that's my dream, and I found that after I broke my neck, that's what I want to do in the future. When I used to hill walk with my dad had knowledge of history. He could read the land, and I'm the little lackey in the back. I didn't really I wanted to find a subject that my dad wasn't the
expert in. I think I know exactly what you mean. Your own thing,
my
something
own
you
thing,
could own.
Yeah. So a few years ago, I tried to go down the food route, the wild food route. But then I found years ago, I've got an eye for looking at shapes in trees and stuff. So now when I go walking, like for example, when my dad went walking, he'd be looking at the landscape for the history.
Yeah.
For tumuluses, where the land's been dug up, for settlements, things like that.
Yes.
What I do now, I go in the landscape and I'm looking for shapes in trees, in branches, and then with driftwood and stuff, with the aim of finding that piece of wood and then going back home and making something out of it.
So at some point the litter came in. Where did that come in, and how's that going?
I was living on that farm, and the idea was to live on there for 10 years, you know, and then all of a sudden out of the blue my dad died. And my dad suffered with serious bipolar, where he'd been sectioned about 3 or 4 times, and our emphasis over the past 15 years was his mental health. 3 weeks before he died, he went out in the community with about $5,000 in his pocket, went in certain pubs which he never went into, showing this money off, and that resulted in him getting mugged, him trying to chase these people around the community for about 2 or 3 weeks. That resulted in getting beaten up and then dying 7 days later. And the upsetting thing was that when after he died, loads of people came to the house saying, "Oh, we saw your dad this, crying, upset. We saw him leaving the door open, people going in his house, stealing things." And the most upsetting thing was that the community saw that happening for 3 weeks, and nobody came to my sister's house or us or the police or the mental health worker to say that this was happening. And in a way, I like to think I've been given that story. I've been given that. I'm a big believer we all get given things in our life. We get our fair share of happiness and our fair share of crap. And I'm a big believer it's how we deal with that, you know, that crap. You can either blame it, put it in your rucksack and let it weigh you down all your life, or you can find something positive in it. My dad was affected with how modern society was going, and I've been affected by how modern society is going. And like I said, going back home, all them problems, and seeing how society's, you know, affecting a lot of people in a lot of ways, in negative ways. What we did, we got away. My sister, I'd not lived with my sister since I was 17, and she'd suffered with PTSD, and she didn't want to live in the house anymore. She didn't want to live in that town. It scarred her that much. So I lived with my sister for 3 years. 18 months in my dad's very eccentric friend's house, which was no environment for anybody really, you know, no environment for Koda. And it was a horrible experience for 18 months. And then my sister wanted to live in Cornwall and make jewellery, and she'd been going down there with my dad to a campsite where you can actually go and work. So we did, and then 18 months we went down to the Lizard. Next thing you know, it was 3 years down the line. We're living in the Lizard, and things weren't getting better. Maxine, my sister, clearly needed professional help after 3 years. 3 years had gone like that. So with the support of my mum, and at one point I just said, right, I've had enough. I can't do this anymore. And I said to my mum, my dad left me a house, and me and my sister, and after my dad died, we started to rent that house, so we had a bit of an income coming in between us. So I'd come to a point at the Lizard to leave my sister, and I rang my mum up and I said, right, I've had enough, I've got to go. And basically I said, right, I'm going to walk coast to Britain, put my money in my bank every month, and I'll see you when I see you. And that's what I was going to do. Anyway, both my mum and sister panicked because I was going to leave Maxine with Koda. And I had my mum's support because she said, look, Maxine's becoming codependent. Next thing you know, you could be with her for 10 years. You've got to make a bit of a stand, really, you know, and she's got to start doing a bit for herself and go down the route of professional support. I've done my bit. I've done my brother bit. I've done my support work bit, and it weren't really getting me any further. It was having a detriment to my, you know, to my health. Anyway, for the first couple of weeks, my sister didn't really believe that I was going, and with the support of my mum in the background, that was it. Anyway, 2 weeks later, through help of her friends, Maxine were panicking. What about Koda? I just turned around and said, I'll take Koda with me. I'm going, and there's nothing you can do about it. Let me take Koda with you. Anyway,
We should probably explain to anyone who's listening who doesn't already know what Koda is.
Right, yeah. Koda is our dog. Koda, my dad came home with Koda 10 days before he died, while he was going on a bipolar high. The story of Koda is very odd. After my dad died, we realised my dad knew he was dying for 9 months, and he didn't tell anybody. After he died, we'd found that he'd put lots of things in place. His funeral, he bought me a camper van for £1,000, which I thought was a bit bizarre. He was visiting me more regularly within that 9 months. When I left, my dad was extra large with clothing. He was size 11. After he died, I found a brand new buffalo jacket, my size, in his wardrobe. Brand new boots, size 8, my size. Brand new rucksack. And 10 days before he died, he just came home with Koda. And Koda is a Northern Inuit dog. It's a cross between a Malamute Siberian Husky and a German Shepherd. Looks like a wolf. He just come home with him. He was in a shop. My dad was tuned in big time to his history, to the landscape, very, very tuned in. And I think that's one of the reasons why he suffered badly with his mental health, because it was modern day society that affected him. And just come home with him one day. He was in a shop where you buy crystals and wood carvings and stuff. And the manager's friend came into the shop saying, I've had this dog for 8 weeks and it's wrecking my house. She'd bought it from another person that had it for 6 weeks. Again, they'd fallen in love with him, but not realising she was going to work, this lady, and leaving him. You can't leave these dogs. They're a working dog. They need to be with people or a pack. And my dad just fell in love and just come home with him. After he died, one of my dad's ex-girlfriends, who has about 15 chihuahuas, came to us and said, Wayne...
15 chihuahuas?
Yeah. She goes, Wayne, 8 weeks before your dad died, she didn't know my dad was dying. Again, our emphasis was on his mental health, and we could see something happening within the first few weeks of him dying. It turns out that Dad had actually contacted her to say, I want a dog, and I want a wolf. Right. She didn't look, because she knew he was clearly ill. Yeah. Mentally. So she didn't look. He didn't look either. There's no evidence of him looking online or out like that for a dog. Yeah, a few weeks later, he's in this shop that sells crystals and stuff, and this lady's just come in out the blue saying, I need to sell this dog. And he came home with him.
Sometimes things just align, don't they?
They do indeed. They do indeed. So
Koda's now your dog, and you're setting off on your walk.
Well, yeah. So originally when we set off, the idea was to walk around the coast of Britain, raising money for Mind, using that 3-week story of me dad.
Which is a mental health charity.
Yeah. And the idea was to do that and raise money for Mind and use that story. So instead of litter picking, I'd be using that story with the aim of changing people's reactions and responses to people who fall vulnerable within the community. Because basically at the end of the day, what happened with my dad, he was neglected. People saw him in the community, they saw an ill person, but they chose not to do anything about it. That could be any of us. It could be any of our kids that wander out into the streets. It could be anybody can have a breakdown. We're always that close. Everybody's so close to having a mental health breakdown. Our grandparents, our parents can get Alzheimer's, whatever. I'd like to think that we live in a society whereas if that happened, then the first person that the vulnerable person would bump into would take them to safety. My dad lived in a very small town. People knew who he was, yet he was allowed to fall ill in the community for 3 weeks. And because of that, because he was neglected and ignored, like a lot of things in society, like the litter. It's exactly the same. He got mugged and he got beaten up, and that could have been prevented. So, but then I found quickly within a few days I'm not able to use that story. First, because my sister is seriously ill and was seriously ill at the time. We still own the house, so we have to go back there. And you're dealing with I don't want them people on me back. To expose that, you're dealing with a rabble of people. I don't want them on me back. So, obviously I couldn't do that, but what I do now is I tell that story face to face.
So you didn't go with that story, and you've gone with the litter story.
Gone with the litter, like you said, it was every night. Litter pick the country, litter pick the country. When I lived on that farm, I was going to the shop every other day for my fags and my coffee. And it was a lovely road, tree-lined avenue, going down to the shop, and it was absolutely terrible in litter. And I was focusing on the litter, but not doing out about it. And it were really doing me head in. The first thoughts were to go down to the shop and go in the shop and say, hey, you need to do something about it. Again, thinking about it. I've thought about going into a shop angry, and telling him, you need to do something about it. Really, I should be approaching that shop and talking to him, building a relationship, right? So I'm thinking all that, and I'm not joking, for about 6 months, it was really affecting me. Bear in mind, I weren't picking it up. And one day, I don't know when it were, penny dropped. I thought, I'm walking to the shop every 2 days, I'll just start picking it up. And soon as I started picking up that litter, the anger went. It just went and was replaced by a feel-good factor straight away. I didn't even get angry 2 days later when the litter was coming back.
Yeah.
I thought, I'm doing something about it.
Yeah.
Practically and properly, I'm doing something about it. And that was the start, I think. From day one, there's 2 things that I've wanted from this journey. One is to sit back in 10 years' time and say, I've walked the coast of Britain. Because that's where it stems from. It stems from a dream of wanting to walk the coast of Britain. And with that, I've successfully walked the coast of Britain, but I've successfully completed a dream that I've had for about 20 or 30 years, you know. Like I said, the dream of a big adventure, the nomadic lifestyle. So that was in my head. So when so my sister reminded me of that.
What was the second thing? What's the second thing you want to?
Oh right, the second thing was the dream of the log cabin.
Ah, cool.
And I'm using this journey to find that place.
Okay.
Yeah, hopefully. And I like to think I'm actually making that happen by doing what I'm doing. I'm meeting people that could give me future work, that could give me a future house if I did a bit of work.
We're joining Wayne and Koda back here, and just tell me now, so I know that you've joined with Keep Britain Tidy on your litter pick. How did that come along?
I'd heard of Keep Britain Tidy when I was a kid. Everybody my age would know about Keep Britain Tidy. It was all over the telly when we were younger. I think it's different now. If you ask a 20-year-old, they wouldn't know what Keep Britain Tidy is, but it does still exist.
I remember.
Yeah. So a few weeks before I set off on my journey, I'd obviously contacted my charities. They'd give me the relevant bump, and the only thing that was next to do, I just googled Keep Britain Tidy. I saw the Facebook page, I looked at a forum, and there was somebody chatting to each other in a forum, and I've just said what I'm going to do. And obviously Keep Britain Tidy was managing that forum, overseeing it, and contacted me. And they're giving me my first litter picker, and they watched me for about a year, and they sent a few people out They got me in the local newspaper. They sent a few people out, and over the past 3 years they've made me a Litter Hero ambassador for Keep Britain Tidy. I was the first one, and now over the past 2 years they've recruited 250
Great.
Litter Hero ambassadors, and they're all people who are already either beach cleaners or litter pickers, and they get training now, and they'll obviously help Keep Britain Tidy with their campaigns, be it the Great British Bin Clean, be it the Love Parks Week, which is happening now. You get training, and also I think the future will be for them to go into schools, and I think they're aiming for about 1,200. So my relationship with Keep Britain Tidy has been me doing what I'm doing, them watching me from afar, them giving me an award. And the way they support me is they've linked me in with lots of. I get sponsored by Litter Pickers Helping Hands, which is litter picking equipment, so I can get me equipment. And obviously through media, really, I'll Keep Britain Tidy is helping me. So anybody who contacts Keep Britain Tidy and they want a big story, they'll contact me. Now I'm promoting the Eco Schools project, and with, like I said, I've done about 100 schools on my journey.
So what are you talking to kids about in schools?
Yeah, I'm going into a primary school. My talks are for free. They're about 20 minutes long, and basically I go in with pieces of litter, be it fishing line, fishing net, a paper cup, any litter that can harm wildlife. And a lot of these things I've learnt on my journey. I've learnt how I found hundreds upon thousands of animals that have climbed into a coffee cup. It turns upside down, and they're dying because they're not breathing or drowning. Same with the crisp packet, same with McFlurries. Again, lots of things that I'm finding animals. So I'm going into a school, just saying what I'm doing. Basically, I'm using my status now, that because the fact that I'm doing a big thing, I'm able to go into a school, inspire young people, telling them what I'm doing, my walk, and in a couple of minutes, just how much I've picked up, what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, but also then the other 15 minutes of what I'm coming across, and making the link between schools on land with the litter on land to how it's affecting the sea as well. So basically the talks are the dangers of litter towards wildlife, be it land and marine.
So what are you finding?
God, again, I'm seeing the world litter come up on our shores. And again, what's the world litter coming from? It's coming from the fishing industry, be it the nets, the fishing lines. It's coming from shipwrecks. It's coming from countries that don't have that waste infrastructure. Years and years of that. But what also I'm seeing on my journey is how we, as an advanced country, the UK, is contributing to that massively. And that's mainly down to the individual littering en masse. And that's inland, that's on the coast, that's to do with people throwing stuff down the loos, but also everybody, be it businesses and houses. Again, when I'm on the coast, for example, I'll see it today where you've got businesses that are making money from the sea, be it a boatyard, be it a diving group or a sailing group, be it a cafe or a restaurant, and I'm seeing the amount of litter that they're actually contributing. And to say that they're making money from people coming to the sea, I'm not seeing them being responsible for looking after the beach or the sea. I'm still coming onto beaches where there's businesses there, and I'm still seeing that them beaches are full of litter, yet there's still businesses and people using it for their income. So we've got a long way to go, really, from that. So yeah.
What do you think is the solution?
Oh God, a litter-free UK, and that is for everybody to be responsible for their actions. And and that's if you're a business. And also not just being responsible for inside your business, what's outside. What's missing in society as well is no ownership for outside your property or outside your business. That seems to have gone. So you'll have businesses, outside is absolutely terrible, and there's an attitude of it's not my problem, it's the council's problem, I pay my taxes to deal with that. But if you look at it, we're walking around in an absolute dump that's having a massive effect on people's well-being, on people's health, everything. In my head, to tackle environmental issues on a big scale and social issues, and that's the crime rate, that's the law, you've got to get back to community spirit and get back to a safe and clean environment. And how we do that is go outside your house, go on your street, if you've got a business or anything like that, and clean up. Because at the moment we've not got that clean and safe environment.
Cleaning up leads to community as well.
Yeah.
The amount of people that stop and talk to me when I've been on the waterways picking up litter, they're like, what are you doing? Yeah. You know, and then you engage in a conversation, you must find the same.
Yeah. And what I'm finding is in society now there's a need for positive people out in the community doing more. When you go out of an evening, you'll see positive people, but they're at ground level. Like in some society, for example, like my hometown, you go out at 6:30 at night. Who's about at ground level walking? You've got dog walkers, you'll have runners, cyclists, you'll have children, kids from 13 to 18 that are roaming the streets. The other people are negative role models, and there's a big need for positive role models within the community, people doing positive things in the community. As soon as you go out litter picking, if you go out for litter picking for about an hour and a half, not only are you benefiting yourself, because it's quite therapeutic, you're benefiting yourself physically, mentally, because you're doing a therapeutic thing, your problem's going back to your mind, you're not angry anymore because you found something that you've become aware of, a problem within your community, and you're doing something about it. So again, you are enriching yourself because you're doing something about it, and you're getting a feel-good factor from that, and you're improving something. And because of that, if you're seen doing that in the community, people gravitate to you. And what that's telling me is there's a need for that. People are going, oh, I like doing that. And what I'm finding now is, because I'm out there litter picking, and it's a new thing that people have seen, fair enough, people have doing it been 30 years, but everybody will admit they still get looked at. Oh, what are you doing? Why are you doing that? You know, because in the past it's either been somebody who's belongs to the church, or it's council, or it's community service. You know, I'm seeing it now as an activity, you know, where there's a need personally and within the community. And I'm seeing that people, there is a need. We're the ones that are seeing, we're the first ones. Who was a beach cleaning or litter picking? We're the first ones to acknowledge that there's a problem, to recognise it, and to start doing something about it, and realising that we can do something about it, and we're leading by example, seeing that there's a need. So yeah.
What's the most unusual thing you found? I'm sure lots of people ask you that.
Unusual thing I've found? God, if I'm honest, it's the same stuff all the time. Yeah. That you find, to tell you the truth. You might find unusual things on beaches. I found a bullet the other week. At the moment I'm seeing on Facebook, and I found this as well. I was in the Witterings and I found bits of World War II ordnance, and I found a live bullet. There's obviously a ship being moved and it's coming up. You're finding unusual substances on beaches. Again, you'd never know the stories of, you found, I found petrol drums that have been set on fire, or boats that have been set on fire. What's the story behind that? I found a fly mooring. Again, you come across fly tipping, so again, they can be unusual things. And the sad thing that I see with fly tipping, again, sometimes, most fly tipping, it's from somebody who's either moving a house or a landlord or somebody who's done up maybe a bathroom or something like that. You find the odd pregnancy test at the side of a road. God knows what the story is there.
Yeah, I've found some very odd things in waterways as well, especially by the side of rivers. It's not like you can imagine what kind of activities go on at night. Yeah,
you find a lot of sex litter.
Yeah,
so you're finding the rubber gloves, the Durexes and things like that. Yeah. Which is intriguing, really, because you start building up a story in your head. Why is that here? Yeah. Why is that come here?
It's not nice.
But what I found with the litter is I know where I'm going to see litter now. Even when I'm on a path, you're coming up to a little village, you haven't picked up any litter for about, on the southwest coast path, from village to village, it'll be the odd fag butts, it'll be the odd wet wipe or tissue, and then you'll do your beach clean, which will be the usual stuff. Stuff that's been brought up, and maybe stuff that's been left from a picnic. But when you're coming into a town, as soon as you go through that stile, you're coming up about 100 metres before people start walking, and you're going to hit poo bags. You just know, and the litter trail starts, and the fag butts start. When I get on a country lane, we've got an epidemic of throwing out of cars. So as soon as I get on an A road, a B road or a country lane, it doesn't matter where that country lane is. That country lane could be in a bad area, it could be the most beautiful area. It will have the same amount of litter. And you're talking every 4 steps a piece of litter. It'll be big litter, it'll be cans, it'll be cans of takeaways, plastic bottles, fag packets, all the stuff from fast food. We've got an epidemic, and I've got my work cut out when I get on country lanes. It's a bit of a breather when you're on the southwest coast path, because you're not really picking up much litter for 6 miles, unless you're doing the little coves and the beach cleans. But the trail of litter, on my journey, I've only come across one. Well, apart from the actual southwest coast path, where you might do a mile where there's no litter, but it's very rare that I've come across a mile litter free on my journey. Very rare indeed. Even on the coast path, there'll be stuff getting blown in. There'll be stuff that you'll see rather that you can't get, because I'm picking up every piece of litter physically walk past, not that you see. We have a blanket of litter covering the country, and it'll probably take about 20-30 years, and if a lot of us can get to a lot of people now at the moment, which is great, it's brilliant, everyone's going down the single-use route and the plastic-free route. The thing I want to work on is the actual act of dropping a piece of litter or being a bit lazy, and it's that act that's missing. And if you can tackle that, and it's respect, if you've got respect for where you live, it's being connected to nature, it's being connected to your history, to your local history, and I think that's what's missing. And if we've got that, you will not litter, you will not be disrespectful to your fellow neighbour, be it wherever they come from. You will not cause any damage. You'll have that respect, and I think that's what we need to work on as humans. That's what's missing. And if you get that, I think that's the start. If we've all got that, like a discipline, that connection with nature, that connection with your local history. If you've got, like for example, if you've got a connection, if you've been taught by 12 years old about a monument in your village, and you know about the history, and there's an attachment there, maybe your parents or something, or a grandparent was something to do with that story, then the chances of you demolishing or graffitiing, that statue is minimised because you've got an attachment there. If you haven't got that attachment, then there's more chance, surely, if you know, I'm hoping now with my talks that I talk about Koda cutting his foot, so I bring it home to them that Koda cut his foot on a can in a park and how much it cost and what happened and everything, and I'll say, who's got dogs here? So you bring it home to them, and they all put their hands up, and I'm saying, at the end of the day, because of all the litter that's here, all your dogs are at risk of being killed or injured because of the amount. So you're bringing it home to them, you know. So you're bringing that attachment back, if you will. And I really think that's the thing that's missing from schools. You know, that's what you need to be tackling, that respect. You know, if you've got, because that has gone, that respect for elders, that respect.
It's respect for yourself.
For everything.
Well.
For everything. Everything.
I mean, respecting it starts with yourself and also with the environment. And I'm a big believer that you protect what you love.
Yeah. And the also thing, a lot of people say, oh, it should be in the family, but we need to recognise if it's not in the family, anything that we feel our values, right, if it's not in the family, then we need to put it into our education infrastructure. You know what I mean? There's obviously something missing. I can't believe that racism is still prevalent. There's something that we can put into our education system to prevent that. And I'm thinking, if there's a connection there, if you've got that connection, you know, if you're playing with an Indian guy thinking, you know why he's here and what he suffered and blah, surely you wouldn't have that racism. So again, and surely you wouldn't have that. What I say to kids, soon as you throw something on the floor, you are saying that you don't care. Yeah. You don't care about anything. You don't care about yourself, this. And it's that, you know, that I think is the root of it, a root of lots of things. And there's obviously something, we've still got it in our values, but we feel that it's been taken away from us by lots of outside things. So surely that needs to be addressed. And if you had that, you'd so there's something missing, you know, from, like I said, the human being has become disconnected from nature. But also in this country, we're becoming disconnected from our community. There's probably about 10 million people that have never been to a beach. You know, there's probably 10 million people that don't even wear outdoor clothes because they don't need to, because they're at work, they're in the car, they're sat at home watching TV. They're not out in the community. And because people's lives are getting really fast now, I don't drive. So my eyes are at ground level. I'm seeing the homeless person, I'm seeing the penny on the floor, I'm seeing the neglected child, I'm seeing the litter on the streets. People aren't seeing it now because they're up there. It's fifth element land, you know, because everyone are living in their house, cars, work, and because of that fast life and that need and that our ground level, our immediate environment is becoming affected. That's what I think.
Well, I'm going to have to wrap up soon, but okay. I just would really love to know what having Koda on your journey has meant for you.
Oh, God. A couple of things, really. I'm happy myself with the fact that my dad... Two things that could benefit a few people. I was always bad for money. And my dad always had a saying, money is to use, not to spend. And for the first time in my life, since my dad died, I'm actually doing that. And I'm doing that with the money that he gave me, which has come from this house. I get £50 a week from renting the house, and I'm actually using that. I could have bought a nice car for that. I could be throwing it down my throat. I could be wearing nice clothes. But I had my dream. And the fact that I'm using that money, I feel better in myself. Also, Dad has left me a responsibility, and the fact that I didn't give up on Koda, the fact that I've given him a good life, and I like to think I've took responsibility of that responsibility that my dad gave me, that's given me a good sense. I like to think Koda was sent to me. He's a brilliant guard dog. he's making the journey, he's grounding me. If I didn't have Koda, if I was in a big town on a Friday night, I might be susceptible to having a few beers. I might go to that wild party. Because of Koda, I don't. My routine and structure is based around him. And I like to think that I'm giving him a brilliant life. I like to think on this journey, Koda represents what you should be doing with this dog. And he represents animal welfare. And yeah, he grounds me. He's a very good guard dog, and he's a very good pull for the journey. I can walk into a pub, and I don't go into a pub and say I'm walking the coast of Britain. I'll just get a drink and get in my corner and utilise that pub, be it, I'll ask for phone charge, shelter. But within 5 minutes, somebody is coming to me and saying, "Oh, is that a Malamute? Is that a Siberian Husky?"
I witnessed that last weekend after paddle around the pier.
Yeah.
And I think there was another chap in there with a dog who made friends with Koda
Yeah.
and sharing dog treats.
Yeah. so I don't know what the journey would be like if I didn't have Koda. And my dad could have come home with a sausage dog. I could have easily be walking around the country with a Shih Tzu or a sausage dog or a Chihuahua, because you can imagine if my dad's friend had said, "Oh, I have one," I could easily be. But look what I'm walking around the country with. And I really think, again, going back, I don't know, I'm a big... Somebody up there has not wanted me to die. I really think that this is... I don't know, again, I've already more or less got the two things that I want out of this journey. The other thing that I found with this journey is, because I'm litter picking, I really believe that that is helping now all my anger towards all the things that have affected me throughout my life and all the things that I've wanted to do. So I no longer need to commit suicide. I no longer need to make that bold statement of walking to 10 Downing Street and committing suicide, because I'm doing it in a positive way by fulfilling a lifelong dream that's helped me get away from them things. But also with the litter picking now, I'm finding that I am it's suppressing, it's helping me with all that anger. I like to think I'm actually doing something about the bigger problem of them social issues and of them environmental issues, and also helping the bigger environment, because it's the bigger environment that's helped me throughout my life anyway. So in a way it's like giving, again, it's the cliche, isn't it, of giving back. So again, obviously doing it on a big scale, but after 30 years, it's like I've been a broken jigsaw, and all of a sudden that jigsaw, it's come together. I know why I haven't committed suicide. I know why I've lost loads of friends through suicide, yet I'm still one here. And I'm happy with that. I'm happy with believing that this is the reason that I'm here. Might be a bit of a grandeur, but I'm a big believer, that it's... like I said, the walk is a kind of combination of all them things coming together. And like I said, what I found with the walk, I'm not angry anymore, because I'm actually doing something about the things that have actually affected me. But even if you're just litter picking, if you're not doing a big walk, even if you're just litter picking as you walk the dog, you're doing something. If we all did that, then we're all aiming for a better future. My dream would be that the UK, everybody, no crime rate, no things in our society that's having a negative effect on wildlife, on people, nothing that's causing any deprivation. Get back to a society where we can go to sleep and leave our doors open. And there is hope, because I have been to places in the UK where there is no crime, there are no Class A drugs, there are no homeless people. There are places like that exist, but if we continue, they won't be existing in 10, 15 years' time. And if we start changing that, then I'm a big believer that places in Manchester that are no-go areas now, I'm a big believer we can turn them round. And it's all about all of us getting out there and doing our extra bit in our community. And if we all did that, then you'll see the positive ripple effect over the next 20, 30, 40 years. I'm hoping that all them kids that I'm teaching now, they're 6 to 8 years old, they're going to be 16 soon, very soon. And a lot of them now, I know for a fact, most of them, with what I've been telling them at school, none of them are going to litter anymore. I'm hoping that we're going to see the results in about 8 to 10 years' time. I'm already seeing positive results over the past 3 years. When I set off, I'd do a beach clean, maybe 8 people would turn up, and I was the youngest one. Now in 3 years' time, we're getting reports of 100 to 200 people turning up at beach cleans, and I'm not the youngest one anymore. A lot of people are my age and they've got kids who are 8, so that's filtering through. There's a big movement of children at the moment, so I'm hoping, and also with my journey, like I said, I'm getting what I need. Now what's motivating me now is I'm encouraging more people to see the litter. I got stopped the other day by a young mum. Are you the guy who went into my daughter's school the other day? She goes, she can't stop picking up litter now. And I'm even seeing it. And I thought, haha, you didn't see it before because you're too busy. You're seeing it now. So that's one person to add to the thousands and millions. 500,000 people got involved with the Great British Spring Clean with Keep Britain Tidy. I think 500,000 people with the Surface Against Sewage. The other thing I want to put on here as well, Kiko Matthews is currently cycling round the UK at the moment. She's doing beach cleans every night. Up to now she's collected 5 tonnes. I personally have cleaned them beaches about 18 months ago, so you'd have thought nothing should be on them beaches. In between me cleaning them beaches and Kiko Matthews, oh God, hundreds of people have cleaned for the Great British Spring Clean, hundreds of people have cleaned for Surface Against Sewage, for the Great British Beach Clean, and for Marine Conservation Society. They've all done them beaches, so it just shows you the amount that's coming in. You know what I mean? And also the amount that's been, again, like you said, last weekend, 29 tonnes of litter was picked up from Brighton beaches. It's just, it's soul destroying. It's an embarrassment, you know what I mean? And I often think we've been given the freedom. You know, people in North Korea don't have that freedom to go to a beach or to travel and thingy. Millions of people died in the First and Second World War, so we could have that freedom. And look what we've done with it. You know, we've absolutely ruined it. We should be in a place like Austria or Switzerland. That's what they're the only countries left in the world that have reached that level of, you know, what's the word? We haven't reached that yet. You know, we've got access to the world and everything and knowledge and thinking, but for some reason we're missing that respect. And we should be aiming for becoming a country I'd say like Switzerland and Austria, and work from that for the whole world to be.
I'm going to have to wrap up. I know as well that you have experienced a lot of kindness from strangers along your journey.
Yeah.
And you've already mentioned that you're doing this journey on £50 a week. So I know that there is a way that people can help you and support you. How do they do that?
Right, yeah. If you Google 7,000 mile litter pick or Wayne and Koda, you'll see some links there. I'm blogging on Instagram under Wayne and Koda, Twitter Wayne and Koda, and Wayne and Koda's Great British Litter Pick on Facebook, and I have a PayPal as well. So again, people are contributing to my charities, but also people, which I never envisaged, people have contributed to my Just Giving page, and that's helped by maps, equipment. People have bought me rooms, which I'm totally grateful for. I could have done it without that, but again, it just shows there's two things running on my journey from day one. One is the litter, and it's constant, and it speaks all the negatives, lack of caring, selfishness, ignorance, decay, the lot. The other thing that's running from day one, so I'll have a day where I'll see loads of litter, but on the same day I would have received lots of random acts of kindness from complete strangers, and that's from people following me on Facebook, but also some of the best stories are from people that have just seen what I'm doing. They don't know who I am, they've approached me saying, what are you up to there, why are you litter picking? And then they've given me money, they've given me food or shelter or whatever, or put me in contact with people. And that's two things that's running from day one every day on that journey. You can guarantee if I have a bad experience, I'll probably have 2 or 3 good experiences, and that's what I'm seeing. But also, I am getting bogged down because I have took myself out of society, and I'm looking at society as a unit. And there's hope, when you see the little demonstrations for climate change, when you see David Attenborough, when you see the BBC coming up with programmes for the war on plastic, you're seeing all the things, you're seeing hope, but we've a long way to go, it is weighing heavy on me, the way that society's gone and going. We're still there's a lot of things but I've got hope.
And there is always hope. And I think one of my favourite quotes is that small changes made by millions can change the world.
They do indeed.
Quote. And I'm going to wrap up there. So do support Wayne and Koda in any way that you can. Follow them on all of their socials. Follow their journey. You've still got quite a way to go in order to complete the walk. And such an inspiration to all, to just show that if you want to go on a big adventure, you don't need loads of financial backing or support behind you. If you want to do something, you just go for it and you can achieve whatever you like.
And I'll tell you what, have I got time? What I've learned as well over the past 3 years, from people who've walked the coast of Britain and reasons why, I tell you what, I'd advise anybody to do it. And you don't really need money as well. Like you said, you get on social media, get the kit, you get on social media, you choose your charities. Because at the end of the day, a lot of people have just said, right, it's just a brilliant... God, if I had a son who's just taking a year out, I'd say walk the coast of Britain. You only need 50 quid a week. If you're coming out of rehab, if you're coming out of a breakdown or depression, if you're coming out of jail, or you just want a break for a year and you want a safe kind of break, walk the coast of Britain. Get on social media, choose your charity, and just...
Thanks for listening, and sorry for the sort of fade out at the end there. But I could have spoken to Wayne for hours and hours because his story is so interesting, but we just ran out of time. Please do look up Wayne and Koda, Google them, you'll find them on all of the socials, and if you can support them or support the causes that they are working hard for, that's Keep Britain Tidy in mind, then please do. What they're doing is a great and massively inspiring thing, and just proof that you don't need money in order to achieve great things. We'll be back in 2 weeks' time. Thanks for listening.